Hello and welcome. In this presentation, I'm going to be helping you get the best results out of your training. Specifically in this video, I'm going to be talking about hypertrophy or gaining size. And I'm doing this because I want my clients and everyone who comes onto the RDC programs to understand how to get better results. Okay, and there's a lot of BS out there in the industry, the fitness industry especially, and I think it's mainly because they don't understand mechanisms. They don't, they get stuck in silos, which means like they get stuck in one way of thinking and they don't look at other research. So what I want to show you is the actual physiology of what's happening, what is happening in hypertrophy, what is actually making your muscles grow. Because when you can understand that, even at the most basic level, you'll understand how our programs work so well. And it means that you actually have to stick to the program, okay? And when you stick to the programs, when you get the best results. And that's what I want for you, is the best results possible. So let's get started. So first of all, you need to know there are adaptations from strength training, okay? So strength itself isn't something that comes from it's not an adaptation, okay? Strength isn't just one thing. Strength comes from these 6 different things. So you have coordination, motor unit recruitment, hypertrophy, antagonist co-activation, lateral force transmission, and tendon stiffness, if you can't read that, okay? So that is the different types of adaptations that we're going to get. And what we're going to focus on is the adaptation, which is hypertrophy, and what that is, because what people think it is and what it actually is totally different things. Now, what I also want to mention is coordination is a really big one. Motor unit recruitment, really big one. These adaptations are really big because when I even talk to other strength coaches, I try and teach them about coordination because, well, that's one of your biggest adaptations. And if you're constantly changing exercises, you're constantly having to re-get more coordination on that exercise, okay? And so if that's happening and you're always changing exercise, you are slowing how fast you're getting results. And so you need to have a plan for how you're going to improve coordination. And the ways you actually improve coordination is by doing a task not under fatigue. When you're under fatigue, it's been shown that your brain doesn't learn as well. And so if you're constantly training under fatigue or pushing yourself under fatigue, those reps that you're doing that aren't good quality reps are teaching bad pathways. It's not bad, but they're not quality pathways that aren't helping you get stronger. So that's a big part of it. And the other part is motor unit recruitment. And I'm going to teach you a little bit about motor unit recruitment, not too much. And then you have antagonist co-activation, which is like the braking system. Okay, so the brakes are like the opposite side. So say I am doing a bench press. Okay, I'm using my triceps, my deltoids, my pecs. I need to be able to switch off my lats. I need to be able to switch off my biceps in order to be able to press. And what happens, because you're lowering that weight, those other muscles will be at first really firing because you don't have the coordination to switch those off yet. Your body doesn't know it's safe to do it, okay? And so what happens over time is your body gets better at letting go of the brakes and letting you power through things, essentially, okay? And then tendon stiffness is a big one also. So tendon stiffness, which is your tendons getting stronger, essentially, you being able to handle more load on your tendons, which really comes from bigger loads, okay? So heavier loads. And that will happen. So we're going to get into hypertrophy now. So that is the adaptation that I'm going to be talking about most in this, because this is where a lot of people come to me for is hypertrophy. But it doesn't matter if you're not here for hypertrophy. You should get to know what's actually happening, and then you can get way more out of your training, way more. So what people actually, they think, I know this is what most people think because you talk to them and this is what they think, and this is how they train too. They think that you can just absolutely throw as much at a muscle as possible, and that's going to create these micro tears, and then that's what your body is going to come back and heal and rebuild. And that's why people think they got to thrash themselves in the gym in order to get results. And this couldn't be further from the truth. There are no such thing as micro tears. Okay, that doesn't actually happen. Okay, if it were true, there would be no upper natural limit in how big you could get. Now, I'm afraid to say that this might break some hearts, but there is a natural limit to how big you can get. Okay, as a natural lifter. Even for those guys running steroids, there is a limit for how big they get. And it really comes down to your genetics and how many muscle fibers you actually have. Now, that's the word you're going to hear a lot in this presentation, muscle fibers, because that is where hypertrophy is happening, not at the muscle level, but at the muscle fiber level, and we're going to get to that. So if it were true that you could cause a lot of muscle damage, okay, what's happening when you're causing muscle damage is allowing calcium ions to go into the muscle cell. Now, that's the exact same thing that happens when you have muscle bruising. So when you bruise a muscle, you don't grow a muscle. And that is the exact same thing as growing muscle, right? So if muscle damage or just chasing tears which aren't real, or chasing damage, which is calcium ions coming into the muscle cell, and then later you can see muscle damage, you would see bruising would cause muscle growth, essentially. Okay, you would see hypertrophy from speed work, which you don't. Okay, doing stuff fast, you would grow, but as in like jumps and stuff, you would grow. But you'll see that there is a force velocity curve. What's going to happen is that in order to grow, reps must actually slow down. So this is how I want you to start thinking about it. Okay, so we have our muscle. Okay, so if we look at this big one here, if we look at that big one, all right, if you think about your muscle, everyone thinks about, I've got to tear this muscle, right? I've got to tear that. No. We need to think that there's individual fibers in here. Okay, so we have this whole thing here, which is a fiber. Okay? And within those fibers, we have what are called myofibrils. And essentially, it's the myofibrils which are going to make that muscle stronger. Okay, so what we need to think about is we have our muscle, and then inside our muscle, we have all these different muscle fibers. Okay, we have some fast twitch, we have some slow twitch, we have a whole mixture. And depending on the muscle will depend on what it has more of. So like your calves, especially your soleus, will be very slow twitch dominated. Something like your traps will be very fast twitch dominated. Okay, but then within that, all right, we have ones that we use every single day. So what actually builds muscle? So if it's not muscle damage, it's not metabolic stress, okay, which is just metabolites build up. It's active and passive mechanical tension. Okay, so this is tension on the muscles. Okay, specifically, we want active tension, which is going to add those myofibrils to the muscle fiber. Okay, and this is in the concentric. This happens when you're pushing or pulling and it's the hardest. Okay, what you need to do is always make sure you're putting as much effort in as possible on that pulling phase, okay, or on the concentric phase. So pulling, so if you're doing a chin up, pulling down. Okay, if you're doing a bench press, pushing. If you're doing a squat on the way up. Okay, that is where you're putting the most effort in. All right, that is when you're going to get the growth. All right, compared to passive, okay, passive is tension on the muscle, all right, and that's usually on the lowering phase. So like the muscle is active, okay, but it's not going to cause growth. What you do get with passive mechanical tension though is you get lengthening of the muscle fiber, okay? So the muscle fiber will get lengthened and it will get more sarcomeres at the end of the muscle fiber. So when you see people talking about stretch-mediated hypertrophy, or when you're doing lengthened position exercises, if you've seen that, what's happening is we're adding sarcomeres to the muscle fiber. Like something like the triceps don't do that, okay? So like there is no need to train those triceps in that lengthened position because there is no hypertrophy going to happen there. Does that make sense? Whereas like the hamstrings, just stretching the hamstrings and holding that stretch is passive mechanical tension. And that will add sacromeres to the end of the muscle fiber. And now passive mechanical tension and sacromeres being added to the muscle fiber, that is and the muscle fiber, that is only going to happen for a short amount of time. Okay, that won't happen for a very long time. That will only happen for a few weeks, okay, or a couple months. And we see that in eccentric training, when you're overloading eccentrics, you will get good growth at the start, and then you'll sort of plateau and it'll be the same. All right, slowing the concentric phase. So slowing of the concentric. So this is an RDL, doesn't matter what exercise. What you'll see is I start to actually slow down on the way back up. And this is not voluntary. So this is not me thinking I need to slow down this rep to get more mind-muscle connection. This is because I'm putting all my effort in and my body cannot physically do this faster anymore. This is the moment that you're actually causing that growth. Okay, so this is actually the growth part. This is where you'll be adding those, you'll have those cross bridges of the muscle fiber. I don't want to go into this. I can't dumb this down too much, but this is where you'll add myofibrils and the muscle fibers will get wider. Okay, as we get closer to failure, all right, and I'm going to talk about failure soon, this is where we're going to be recruiting more and more and more muscle fibers. Okay, and this is because at the start of an exercise, you're going to be trying, your body's going to be recruiting as least as possible because it wants to be efficient. Okay, your body's like, I need to be efficient. I'm going to use the least taxing amount of muscle fibers as possible. And this is why, I'm going to get into motor unit recruitment in a sec. So on the daily, you're going to be using your low threshold motor units. So if you haven't trained before, you're just going to be using these low threshold motor units. Now, a motor unit is a bunch of muscle fibers, okay, connected to a neuron, right? That is all these different muscle fibers. They are all then connected, okay, which will be all the same muscle fiber type. So there'll be all your low threshold motor units, okay? These are the ones you're going to be using today for walking around, doing easy tasks, you know, doing these things that are quite easy. And then as you do something that's more explosive, okay, or requires more, okay, you're going to be going up in the thresholds of motor units, okay? And what that means is we're going to be recruiting more and more and more muscle fibers. And now to recruit more and more and more muscle fibers, okay, we need to be telling the brain, okay, this is hard. We need to be having a lot of tension there. The more tension that's there, the more our brain can go, yep, sweet, I need more motor units. I need to be able to recruit more. And the more we can recruit over time, because what happens is as you advance, you will be able to get access to more and more. Because what happens is you start by hypertrophizing all these medium-sized threshold motor units. Okay, so these are all your ones in between. So when you first start working out, this is why you get a real fast start. Okay, so when you first start working out, you're going to get a whole lot of growth. And then after that, it's going to slow down. As you start reaching those high threshold, and then your highest threshold over here, it's all going to come slowing back down. Okay, and you have to be very specific with your exercise selection in order to reach the highest threshold motor units. Now, in order to do that, in order to reach those high threshold motor units, we need to select exercises where we are strongest. Okay, so where that muscle has the best leverage, so say in a bicep curl, the biceps have the best leverage when the arm is nearly straight. So from here to here, the biceps brachii actually has the best leverage. Okay, which means that if we load that up correctly, so something like a preacher curl is going to load that up where it's hardest at that position right down the bottom there. Okay, and because it's hardest right down the bottom there, right, we can actually recruit more motor units for where it's strongest. So we're matching the exercise to the muscle fiber, okay, so where that muscle is then strongest, which means that we can recruit the most muscle fibers and motor unit recruitment, okay, and if we do that correctly, then we can actually grow more muscle, okay, or we can get bigger muscles because more of our muscle fibers will be adding myofibrils to them, which will help them gain in size, okay, so the width of the muscle fiber becomes bigger. How big you're going to get naturally, and like I've been natural my whole life, is really dependent on your genetics, okay, and then your training plan. So I hear a lot of people on Instagram saying like there's lots of ways to skin a cat. There is lots of ways to skin a cat, but some are better and some produce way better results. And that's what I'm trying to bring to you, is ways to get way better results. And so if you just listen, I'm not just going to get you from like, this is where most people get to. They'll get to the medium threshold. They'll sort of get here. I want to get you up here. I want to get absolutely everything out of you that you can possibly have. And that goes for your speed training too. This is not about speed training. Speed training is a little bit different. There are some overlaps, but there are also some other parts of speed training which sometimes having too much muscle size can actually not help. And there's a ways, so people that train with lots of supersets, low fast rest periods, so like 30 seconds or less, or even a minute or less, they're actually going to change a lot of their muscle fibers from their fast to their slower twitch, okay, which is better for size gain, worse for speed. So let's keep going. So we have our perceived amount of effort is why we fail. So if you're thinking, when you're in a gym and people think that you fail because the muscle cannot give you any more, like it's got no more strength in it, that is not correct. Okay, the reason you fail is because your brain feels like it can't do any more. And to prove it to you, if you did a bicep curl, like with two hands, like this, just say curling up, and then you couldn't do any more, and you went to one hand and you just kept doing one hand, you could keep going on one hand. And this is because the perceived amount of effort is now less, because you're doing less. You're only doing one hand. And this is why single limb things will work better for hypertrophy when you're in those later stages. So when you're in those, trying to get to those high threshold motor units, single limb stuff actually works really well. The reason why I don't give a lot of single limb, I do give some single limb, is because it takes a lot of time. And then you have to do it on both sides. And then that's going to be causing fatigue too. So you have to be choosy where you pick it, where you do that. So why we fail? Heavy breathing, feeling like it's hard, low motivation, your brain doing multiple tasks, burning sensation, all these things make it hard. So like if you're trying to hold up a weight over here and then you're doing like a bicep curl and you're doing this, or you're doing this one, this is a big one you see on the Instagram, someone will be holding up there and they'll be doing front raises there. You're doing too much. Like your brain's already doing another task and then trying to do this task. Your perception of effort is going to be really high. And that's not going to be good if that perception of effort is high, because we're not going to be able to tap into those higher threshold motor units. Okay, and when we're tapping into those high threshold motor units we want to tap into, which we're going to get the most size gains out of in the end, all right, there's two ways you're going to do it. It's either going to be you're doing a weight that's up to 80% of your max. Okay, so like say you're doing your 5RM. Okay, each one of those 5 reps of that weight, because there's that much weight there, will be tapping into those higher threshold motor units. They'll be effective. Okay, if not, those last 5 reps, say you're going to 10 reps with your 10RM, say you'll fail on that 10th, those last 5 reps, they will be the stimulating reps where we have enough tension in order to cause growth, or enough tension where we're going to reach more of those muscle fibers that can actually get bigger. And so what happens, say you did a set of 10 with your 10RM, okay, that next set you probably wouldn't be able to hit 10 again because you'll have this thing called fatigue. Okay, and we're going to get to fatigue. What actually will happen is you might get 8. Okay, which doesn't mean those last 5 reps were stimulating. It means that only 3 of those reps were stimulating them. And then the next set, you might only get 6 out of those 10. Okay, so say that happened, then you would only have 1 stimulating rep where you were actually able to recruit those higher threshold motor units. And this is why things like, I'm going to get there, but like your drop sets and stuff don't work. So how do we tap into those high threshold motor units? Well, I sort of like got into that just before, but stable exercises, close to failure, using your 5RM load. I was just talking about that. I probably talked about it too soon. I got excited. Stick at an exercise for a longer time. So if you are constantly changing your exercises every 4 weeks, 6 weeks, it takes about 6 weeks to really get all the coordination gains at a minimum, especially for something like a squat. Okay, there's a lot more going on than just sitting down and standing back up. Okay, you have to be recovered, fresh, motivated. These things are what are going to help you. If you're not motivated, and you walk up to the gym, you've got to be able to change that. So things like music can change that. Okay, smile. Just sit there and smile. Like your brain will actually change, and you'll start getting motivated. Warm up a bit longer. So sit on the bike and just warm up. That's what I do. Like, honestly, if I'm feeling a bit trash, I just sit on the bike for a little bit longer. Maybe I go 10 minutes on the bike until I'm ready. And then I just go, every set, I'm putting max intensity into each set. Even if I'm leaving 2 reps on reserve, say I'm doing 5 reps, for those 5 reps, and I have two left in the reserve, I'm giving them everything. Absolutely everything, because I know I need to tap into those higher threshold motor units. And that's what I want you to know. So fatigue. So this is what's going to hamper our results. So fatigue is just a temporary state where you've reduced your strength, essentially. Okay? And that comes from 2 different things. The CNS fatigue, which really comes from you and your perception of effort. Okay, so your perception of effort. So if you think you are working really hard, right, that's actually going to tire you out more. If you can start thinking to yourself, this is easy, this is easy, this is easy, your perception of effort should be lower. Okay, because it's a perception thing. If you perceive you are tired, you will be more tired. I promise you. And there's pretty good research to show that. And this is why when I used to do my fitness training too, especially for club, I would always smile and I would say things to myself like, is this it? Is this it? This is nothing. This is nothing. This is easy. And if you can do that, man, absolute game changer. Absolute game changer. Okay, then we have calcium ion related fatigue. Okay, this happens from more volume. So if you're doing higher reps, okay, 10 plus, if you're doing heavy eccentrics, you're going to allow more calcium ions into the muscle cell. And this is what's been shown to cause muscle damage. Okay, muscle damage doesn't actually happen during the workouts. It's actually only been shown to happen after the workouts. This is how we know that muscle damage can't possibly cause hypertrophy, because it happens after the workouts. It happens like 4 hours after. And so the more muscle damage you have, the more the more calcium ion related fatigue you'll have, and that will go on for days. That can accumulate. Okay, all this fatigue can actually accumulate, and if you're constantly doing these higher loads and then you back off, the reason you backed off and you got stronger from backing off, so say you have deload, the reason you get stronger is not because that in that rest time you magically got stronger. It's because that you rested and that you let your fatigue mitigate, and then you came back stronger because you would have already been that strong. You could have got stronger if you didn't have that much fatigue. Okay, it's not like fitness training. Fitness training is different. This is where a lot of deloads came from. Okay, and when you get exceptionally strong, then yes, there's times for deloads. But most people don't get to that exceptional level of strength and aren't using anabolics to get there. So the more you train close to failure too, the more calcium ions is going to go into this cell. So this is why I always say, like, I give you a 1 to 2 reps in reserve. Some muscle groups I'll be like, yeah, you can go to failure on this one if we're only doing 1 set or so. It depends, but it's all been shown to work, right? This has been shown to work way better. The 3 full body days, my favorite for getting results. My absolute favorite for rugby players, because it means you can get stronger, you can put on size, and we can then also get 2 to 3 good speed sessions in if we want that. Okay, and most people can get really good results that way. And then as we get closer to the season, we can then switch into more speed-based stuff and then just maintain the size. And that's the big thing. If you understand this stuff, you can actually gain size during the season if you wanted to, because it's how you train is what's going to make you gain the size, right? And being not fatigued is what's going to help you gain the size. And the frequency, which is now I'm going to talk about frequency, is a big player, okay? Because what a lot of people think is like that. There was this study that came out. It's like you have to do 52 sets a week, something like that. What a load of rubbish! Like it's a load of rubbish. You don't have to do 52 sets a week. If you're not getting stronger, you're not gaining size, okay? Because we know that when you gain size, that is effectively adding more myofibrils to that muscle cell or to that muscle fiber, and then that is actually making you stronger. So you can't get, but you can get stronger without gaining size, okay? Because we had all those other ways that you can actually gain strength. Does that make sense? Let me know in the comments if that doesn't make sense. I can explain that one better. Okay, but the frequency. So like, we know from maintenance literature, okay, maintenance being how much you need to work out to maintain, that if you just did 3 to 4 sets in 1 week on a muscle fiber, I say muscle fiber because there's different muscle fibers within a group, you would have maintenance, okay, 3 to 4 sets. But if you did 1 set twice a week, you would have growth, which means that not all sets are created equal. Okay, and doing more frequency means that we're going to have less atrophy, because atrophy happens after about 2 days. Okay, so 2 days after you worked out a muscle fiber, then you'll start having atrophy. And I keep saying muscle fibers, right? Because say I did the chest, right? I did a wide grip bench press. Okay, that's going to hit more of my middle part of my fibers. It will hit top and it will hit bottom as well. But as an advanced lifter, it's really going to hit those bottom fibers. So those middle fibers. If I did a close grip bench or a more narrow grip and a bit of an incline, I'm going to hit these top fibers as an advanced lifter. As an intermediate, you'll probably hit all of them, just enough. But as advanced, I've got to hit these fibers there. So if I only do that incline bench once a week for 3 sets, then I'm only going to get I'm only going to be in maintenance. So frequency is a really good key. And we know this, like, before steroids, bodybuilders all trained this way. They would do roughly 1 to 3 sets, and they would do pretty much full body programs, and these guys were just as big as the natural guys today. And the natural guys today, just for your information, they run gear and then they go off gear and then they compete, most of them. So this, and they all run bro splits. So they're doing a bro split, which means that if they're doing a bro split, then they're only getting 1 stimulus on that muscle a week. And if they're doing more, say they're doing a bro split twice a week, then that means they're going to have so much fatigue that they're never actually going to be getting into those higher threshold motor units. So they're almost going to be plateauing for a long time. And the only thing that's going to be getting them stronger is actually the drugs. And so this is why when you're natural, which you should be as a rugby player because it's a natural sport, but I know some people don't. Anyway, you need to train better. And I've been training 3 sessions per week because I just wanted to see what that would do for the last year, and my growth has been ridiculous. And this is more, I'm talking about hypertrophy, okay? So keep coming back to hypertrophy. We're adding muscle fiber, myofibrils to the muscle fiber, specifically in the specific muscle fibers, right? And this is why intensifiers do not work, right? I got these, I have nothing against these guys, by the way, but like, they don't understand. Like, neither of them, so this guy, super jacked. This guy, super jacked. But they're either natural phenomena, but I'm pretty sure this guy's running some heavy TRT, but like, they're just natural freaks. And that's okay. Like, you can be a natural absolute weapon, look at weights and gain muscle. It doesn't mean you know what you're talking about. And when I play this,
we're all busy. So here's workout, dumbbell only, let's go. Exercise 1, chest supported row. I'll choose this over single arm row because it takes less time. Now a good pairing for this.
We know a single arm row, because it's one arm, you would actually increase that motor unit recruitment.
Incline dumbbell chest press. Same set of dumbbells, same bench arrangement, really easy to superset into. Third exercise, leave the bench as it is, dumbbell reverse fly. Do those 3 back to back, take 30 seconds rest, perform 3 rounds. Now on to the second try set. First off.
So let me stop it right there. So there's 3 different exercises, okay, straight away. So 3 different exercises, no rest in between. So one, why is this one playing? So one, you're not going to get enough growth from it. Okay, so if we're doing 3 exercises back to back, that means you're going to be feeling very close to failure. Okay, because one, your heart rate's going to be up. Okay, we know when the heart rate's up, you're breathing heavy, then your perception of effort is going to be quite high. We also know that because you're going from one to the other straight away, the amount of muscle fibers you're going to be able to recruit is going to be very low, which means that this is neither going to be good for strength, okay, because you're not going to get much out of, like, there's not going to be many adaptations there, and we're not going to reach those higher threshold motor units. Okay, we're not going to tap into those muscle fibers you want. But like, look at him, he's absolutely jacked. Like, he was a great rugby player too, and all I'm saying is, like, that doesn't actually make sense. So then 30 seconds rest after that, and then going back through it, is not going to be good for hypertrophy, because that short rest, we're not going to be fully rested, right? We're not going to be able to recruit those high threshold motor units. We're just going to be in those medium or lower threshold motor units. And that goes for drop sets. So same thing with a drop set. Think what happens. Okay, that first initial set might actually be good. You might actually be in those high threshold motor units, but then you go again, drop it down, we're back in those medium threshold motor units. Okay, we're back down the bottom. We're not tapping into the high threshold motor units we need to, which are the ones that are going to continually grow, or the ones that we can keep actually getting growth out of as a natural athlete. So short rest periods, giant sets, all these things, they're just intensifiers which make the perception harder. And when we're making the perception harder, it's not actually increasing how much tension is there on the muscles. And that's what we really need to be doing if you want to get seriously strong, if you want to build as much natural muscle as possible, then you need to train better. Okay? And the intensifiers don't work. And this is why I say, just stick to the program. You will get the results.
We're all busy. So
Oh, the other one was just the same sort of thing, but like he did lunges into jump lunges essentially. And we know that that's not going to cause any more growth because speed work doesn't cause growth, all right, because there's no slowing down of the muscle. And two, yeah, the guy is obviously jacked, but obviously running as well. So eccentrics. So we use eccentrics in our programs. You have to be careful though. With eccentrics, you're going to get a lot of muscle damage, okay? And that muscle damage can be very fatiguing, which then can affect the rest of your workouts, and then could affect your sprints the next day. So if you have a lot of muscle damage from doing eccentrics either in the morning or before you do some sprints, how do you think warming up for your sprints and actually sprinting going to be? Are you more likely to tear a hamstring? 100% you are. Compared to if you did this and you did like a isometric for 3 to 4 seconds, you could actually build muscle in the same areas just as fast. So you're not going to get the sarcomeres adding to the muscle fiber as much, okay? But you can do that in other ways, like just lengthening your hamstrings will do that. So application, stick to the program for one. Just stick to the program. Know that you do not need to chase muscle damage. You don't need to chase a burn. These are not things, right? You don't have to do that. That's not helping you whatsoever, all right? Stick to the program. Stick to how I set it out. Like always have at least a day between the full body sessions. If you're doing the upper-lower split, yeah, do the lower first, do the upper, because there's going to be less fatigue from the lower. Stick to it. If you're not doing the program, stable exercises. Think stable. Stick to them for a good 6 weeks, if not 12. Okay? Long rest periods. Sets and leave reps in reserve. You'll be surprised if you just leave 1 to 2 reps in reserve, how much better your workout goes. If you continuously go to failure, it's going to be hard for you to keep on progressing. And I know because I've done it plenty of times. And then make sure you have rest days. Like don't thrash yourself every single day. Like yes, you can do a little bit of sprints in your rest days. You can do your mobility, but this whole mentality of like you have to get to the gym every day is not helping you. It's actually going to make your results worse. And I know because I used to work out 7 days a week. I wanted to be that rugby player that was massive. And I worked out 7 days a week and I was like, why am I just not getting as big as as I thought? Then I realized a lot of the guys around me were running stuff and I was like, oh, that makes sense. But then I also realized that, at a deeper level, I might just not have the same muscle fiber makeup as other people. And that's fine. I still have a lot of muscle fiber, just maybe not as much as someone else. And that's just my genetics. That's how it is. And so what I want from you is just, how can I get the most out of you? All right? In order to reach those higher threshold movements, is in order for us to hypertrophize a muscle, it happens at the muscle fiber level, okay? Which is with inside. And as we go on, we keep on recruiting more and more and more and more. And the only way to do that is to keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. Because what we're doing is adding myofibrils, which is the proteins inside of it, making the muscle fiber wider, which is then making you stronger. And so you can't have hypertrophy without getting stronger. Okay, if your muscle hypertrophies, you should have gotten stronger, because that's what hypertrophy is. All right, if you've liked this, please let me know. If you have questions about it, RDC members, send me a message on our app and let's talk about it. If you're watching this on YouTube and you want to know more, follow our channel. Hit me up. If you want to jump on our RDC programs, I'll put the links below. And yeah, I hope that made sense. There's a lot to it.